All right. Next best practice was all about security. And really the answer is here is like, yeah, you should secure your data. It's a valuable asset in your company. If you've just got, Parquet files in S3 and you've got wide open bucket policies because your data scientists need to run Spark jobs and there's no other way to secure your data, that's a big risk for your data and for your company. And um, in Iceberg, in the open source, there's a couple of existing standards. There's OAuth 2 protocols as well as SIGB4 protocols. These are both supported in the REST catalog. So obviously there's support in Tabular. And that's really just how do we do authentication and identity between a compute engine and a catalog like Tabular. So that's great that we can leverage those open source protocols. It means that there's no special code that has to be run inside Spark or Trino in order to do that identity and authentication handoff between those compute engines and Tabular. But beyond that, the question is like, what are you going to use to set the actual access control policies? That is left up to implementers. And in Tabular's case, we've got a role-based access control system, right? So this is going to feel very familiar to you if you're coming from any other SQL-based data warehousing world. You can set privileges from the very top level, the warehouse level, all the way down to column level in Tabular. You can use role hierarchies, so you can nest roles and build role hierarchies as you're building up your organization and your groups. You can do things like map IAM roles. This is really, really valuable if you happen to be running in AWS and you've got, let's say, Spark jobs running under a certain IAM role on certain compute clusters, EMR, or even Databricks clusters running on a particular IAM roles. You can map those over into tabular roles and basically assign permissions that way using the SIGB4 protocol. And if I back up a slide, this is super powerful because you can configure, this is an example from PyIceberg, but it works the same from, say, Spark or Trino. You're just going to configure this compute engine to say, hey, I'm going to be using SIGV4 as my authentication mechanism. And here's my tabular endpoint that represents my catalog. And without having to provide any other credentials or secrets, Amazon on AWS's SIGV4 protocol will handle validating that, yep, this compute is running as the particular IAM role. That IAM role has been mapped to a set of privileges on the tabular side. And then that compute engine is only going to have access to the data sets that have been governed by your access control policy. So that means no credential management, no secret management, very secure way to give access to compute to just a subset of the data that it needs access to. So if you've got a job you're launching from your scheduler, from Airflow, you can say, hey, this job only needs access to these tables, so it should run as this role, and all that can happen without having to pass any secrets around our credentials. So powerful stuff, powerful patterns you can build here. The ability to synchronize your enterprise roles and members. So if you've got Active Directory groups or things set up in Okta, all that can be synchronized over to Tabular, and then you can use those groups again to define who has access to what. And a comprehensive audit log of all the authorization decisions that the system makes, and which users are accessing which tables, who is responsible for any commits to tables, things of that nature. And as you can imagine, we deliver that audit log as an Iceberg table. So you can use all the tools you can use against Iceberg, you can use to consume and build reporting off that audit log. So really nice for compliance and auditing, SOX and other compliance capabilities. The last best practice that Dan touched on was data privacy and compliance. These are obviously other important things related to security, but I'll dig into them a little bit more. His recommendation was leverage Iceberg features. What does that look like in Tabular? So he talked about using things like tags for preserving historical snapshots. If you need to go back and say, this is the version of the table that I used for my quarterly reporting for SysOps compliance. You can do that. Tabular supports all these Iceberg features, tagging, branching, obviously maintenance, as well as views. So I have views here on Thursday, 3/14. So Pi Day in 2 days with our next production release, since the Iceberg 1.5 release just came out yesterday. Tabular will have full support for Iceberg views. That's exciting. In addition to the standard Iceberg features, Tabular does have some more proprietary features, specifically around governance and compliance. So we have the ability to do column level labeling, as well as masking policies for columns. You can do record level retention. So you can set, hey, for this table, I only want to keep data for up to 6 months. And after 6 months, it should be automatically removed. So you can set that up for any given table, and Tabular will automatically purge old records from the table. Data anonymization. So we can, in addition to masking columns, we can actually anonymize columns. So maybe you have emails or customer identifiers that you need to anonymize either immediately or after a period of time. You want to hash them, something like this. You can set those policies up in Tabular and we'll automatically anonymize certain columns over time. And that's doing it physically in the Iceberg table. So anybody reading that data would see only the anonymized information. And in the second half of this year, we're going to be delivering some more dedicated features for helping our customers with GDPR compliance. So these are primarily the right to be forgotten challenge in data warehousing, where you've collected a bunch of information about users, and then for whatever reason, you need to purge all the information about a particular user from your entire warehouse. And so we'll have the ability for our customers to tag certain tables and columns as being involved in GDPR purging, and then give us a set of customer identifiers, and we'll go through the warehouse and automatically clean that stuff up, including any historical snapshots and time travel that need to be cleaned up as well. So with, time travel is great, having history is great, but for GDPR, it could actually be quite challenging because you actually need to purge even the history of that customer. And that can be a challenge, and Tabular is going to be helping our customers tackle those kinds of issues. All right, I'm going to pause here for a moment. I think that's most of my slides.